Penn State struggling a little bit against Bowling Green didn't feel nearly as dramatic when you watch Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois, you watch Michigan lose to Texas, and the fashion in which that happened. So I think there was a sigh of relief from everyone. You get the win, kind of escape week 2, which took down a lot of the big guys.
We're right where we need to be offensively, and I think it's just about resetting, getting back to complementary football, and then kind of like Allie said, like not worrying about the defense anymore. Because that is something that we never really had to worry about for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm right with you, man. I think it's just such an odd game because as Penn Staters, as fans, we haven't been in a situation like this where the offense, like you said, no worries. Like, hey, they scored, we're gonna come right back. Boom.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State!
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far?
And this segment's brought to you by Family Clothesline. They kept us looking sharp all weekend. I'm currently wearing one of the Lulu Polos. It's a Family Clothesline exclusive. Make sure you guys check out Family Clothesline for all of your Penn State apparel needs.
What's going on, folks? Back again with my guy B-Bell for another week of The Pocket post Bowling Green. Before we dive into that, though, I do want to jump into some of our sponsors. We got Ziebart, as you guys know, your vehicle's best defense. These guys do disinfect, clean, detail, the whole 9. I'm going to need that here shortly for a couple of my whips. They are getting raunchy. Family Clothesline, make sure next time you're in town you check them out. They always have the best stuff. B-Bell's always repping something from them, me as well. They've been great partners of the channel, so make sure you guys are always checking them out. And then last but not least, my guy Jack over at Hidden Still with the blue-white bourbon. This is your first chance to participate in NIL and get something out of it. You know what I mean? He's donating a pretty penny, man. I'm just letting you guys know it's a pretty significant punch. We're talking double-digit percentages here that are getting kicked back at retail. So we're gonna have a link embedded both in the description and probably here in the screen somewhere as we're going for you guys to order it both in state, out of state, and then locally if you're around. Make sure you check out your liquor stores for that. So now that that's out of the way, B, I'm telling you, man, I was a little scared, but when you look around college football, dude, it was spooky season for a few of these folks. Week 2 seems to be, I think we were talking about this pretty similarly last year. Week 2 seems to be a bit of a hurdle that sometimes gets overlooked.
Yeah, a lot of week 1 matchups might have been a little bit of trap games, you know, some big opponents for a lot of these teams. And what you think is kind of a drop-off in competition, as we know with the transfer portal and everything else, you know, everybody's ready to play around the country. A lot of these squads, coaches are locked and loaded. So it was a good weekend of college football, exciting nonetheless. You know, maybe not for your in particular team, depending on who you are. I know we had a somewhat of a rough weekend, but got the dub. But college football is, I feel like I want to tweet it every week. You watch plays, it's like college football, like this is what it is. Wonky plays, it's the essence of college football. You never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. It is the unpredictability is the best part about it, but I want to highlight a few of these games. Texas went up there and
called it.
Stomped the Wolverines.
You called it.
Yeah, I did call it. I don't want to take too much credit, but I mean that Texas team is built for it, man. I think if they weren't in the conversation to be a legit national championship contender, they better be now. They got a great quarterback. Their defense looked really good. Granted, I think Michigan's struggling a little bit, trying to figure out who's going to be their guy. Fortunately, they have some runway here. A game like that's not going to kill them. But they got to be impressive the rest of the year. And the Notre Dame loss, man, I think that wipes them out. They had the statement win, cruise control through the rest of their schedule to get into the playoffs, and they trip up.
The easiest, well, I don't know on paper, but from my side, the easiest schedule after they got their first dub, everybody kind of penciled them in. But the Maction, bro, a lot of Maction this weekend. Yeah. There's guys out there, there's ballers everywhere, no matter what level. and some great coaches once again that can get the job done.
Yeah, and we talked about that too, I think, last year, just what the transfer portal has done in terms of the disbursement of talent. Right, guys are just looking for opportunities to get on the field at this point. So they don't really care where they're going as long as they're getting paid a little bit and they're going to be strapping it up on Saturdays. Mm-hmm. They'll go anywhere. And then Oregon got in a little bit of a tussle match with Boise State. Now Boise State's traditionally a very good Group of 5 program. Have been kind of out of the limelight the last few years, but they got a pretty good ball squad. And Oregon's now had 2 kind of pillow fights here to start the year off. A lot of it being the defensive side of the ball, which is uncharacteristic of a Dan Lanning football team.
Right. Yeah, that game was fun. I mean, Boise State, you said, no slouch. That running back, he's a Heisman contender. I mean, they've got, once again, everyone's got ballers, but he's a guy. But, I mean, it says something. Early in the season, I kind of wanted to save this when we get to our part of it against Bowling Green, but just in college football in general, it means something getting a tough win, digging it out in the beginning of the season, really no matter who it's against. But I'll digress. Save that for later. Yeah. Who else we had this weekend?
And then the last one I got, I mean, bro, are Nebraska and Miami back? Nebraska and Miami back.
Is this 1995? What are we doing? I love it, though. I love it, though. People,
it's good for college football.
Yeah, it's like, I always say it's, I'll scratch that. I'll leave that out. But, yeah, when the U is back and Nebraska's back, it's good for the brand of college football. And it starts with having a head honcho at quarterback. 2 new guys in these programs. One a freshman, what do they call him? Mahomes' cousin. It's a little funny, the little banter. I mean, he plays into it. I mean, honestly, if this is a guy to, try to look up to, Mahomes is doing it right now, so it's cool. But they've got a good squad. It's not just him out there running around making plays. Nebraska, that is, Dylan Raiola. I mean, they've got a solid O-line, monstrous O-line. A lot of people aren't necessarily penciling Colorado as a valuable win, but I don't know about that. When you're coming off of, how many seasons has it been since Nebraska has looked like this, at least?
It's
crazy.
Every
one is a good one.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's an old school rivalry. So I think for them, that's a program jump starter. And they haven't, the issue is even back with Scott, when Scott Frost was there, they weren't a bad football team.
Yeah, a lot of single-digit losses.
Yeah, but they had guys, they had talent. They just didn't play complete ball, and you get the right guy in Ruley there to instill the foundational principles that are needed to execute and win tight football games. You mentioned it. They ran the ball right up and down the field, took a lot of the load off of Raiola. He made some plays, but defensively they returned damn near every starter this year, and their defensive front's really, really good.
Yeah. They were manhandling Colorado.
Yeah, and Colorado's had some issues up front the past few years, but just the way that they came out, I thought that was a program-defining win for them. And that's another team, similar to Rutgers, in the Big Ten at least, who have a relatively light schedule as it pertains to the big dogs in the conference and who they're playing this year. Nebraska and Rutgers both could come out of that thing with 1 or 2 losses, and now you're talking. What they're doing is they're making it much more valuable for teams like Penn State, because the benefit of the doubt then is gone. Because when you look at wins and losses, you're going to be comparing apples to apples. So but that's intriguing to me, man. I think the Raiola kid can be special. Happy for Ruley.
I love Matt Rule. State Townie, Statey.
Yeah. State College County. One of our boys. So
Cam Ward too.
What'd you say?
Yeah, let's not forget about Cam Ward. Definitely a lesser opponent than Colorado, but nonetheless, Miami's in the limelight. They're winning games. I think they've got a good thing going. He's in Heisman contention as well.
But that's a good point, though, B, because I think it segues us right into our initial reactions with our game. They come off a big statement win against Florida, which, again, Florida's not what Florida used to be. Yeah. But that means a lot in the state of Florida as a whole, and from Miami, from a recruiting standpoint, from a standpoint, like that means a lot. And they very easily could have rode that high too far into week 2, and similarly to what we just talked about, gotten a pillow fight with a lesser team, and let them hang around too long. They shut the door quick, and to me, that's a characteristic of a program that is poised to make a run. They're mature, they know how to handle their business, they're about it, and they don't play around, man. This is what they do. This is what they're doing. They have their eyes on the prize. So you bring up a great point, and that transitions us to my take. We're going to bring in Allie Berube here. She's been on the Penn State beat for quite some time, and just get some initial reactions to this game, because I think that there's a lot to unpack, and the way that this schedule kind of plays into a bye week, it's going to be a good discussion here.
Yeah.
So without further ado, we have Allie Berube from ABC 27 Harrisburg. She and I got to catch up on the sidelines, so we wanted to get into this initial reaction. I think it was a very emotional game, but I appreciate you taking some time and hopping on with us. Allie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, excited to be here with you guys. Christian and I talked for a long time during that game. It felt like at times it was painfully slow. Other times you really saw the offense pick things up and give people things to be excited about. I don't know. I kept asking people panic level at different points in the game, and I think that was a bit of a roller coaster for everyone. Felt really high at times. I think anytime Nick Singleton or Katron Allen touch the ball, you're excited. I haven't been that anxious, I think, on defense in a long time. I know, B-Ball, that's your side of the ball, but it was odd. It was an odd feeling. I think, obviously, anytime you escape with a win, that's huge. And then I think when you look at the college football landscape as a whole, Penn State struggling a little bit against Bowling Green didn't feel nearly as dramatic when you watch Notre Dame lose to Northern Illinois, you watch Michigan lose to Texas, and the fashion in which that happened. So I think there was a sigh of relief from everyone. You get the win, kind of escape week 2, which took down a lot of the big guys.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, for me, I have a completely different perspective. I was super emotional even when I got on radio after the game. And I had to kind of think about it. And then after listening to Coach Franklin's post-game presser, I thought he said all the right things. And I think it's unique, right? The bye week positioning and where it's at, it gives them, because they have basically an identical game coming up then after this. So Jason and I talked about it. It's this bye week now, rather than it being probably a little bit more relaxed, hey, we'll get guys healthy. Maybe we're doing some forward scouting for Illinois or Ohio State or somebody else. I think it's going to be a work week now. I think they're going to manufacture it, and I think the defense in particular, like you said, it was just a tale of two halves for me. It was just they couldn't get off the field in third and medium. They struggled in man coverage and matching up with these guys. And I said this too. I mean, Bowling Green's a good football team. I'll say it. I underestimated them coming in. I thought the quarterback played phenomenal. I think the tight end was a really good football player. Obviously, created a lot of mismatch problems for us. But still, at the same time, with the way we played against West Virginia, you would expect us to be able to come in and close the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in talking with the players afterwards, you kind of wanted to hear that, right? You didn't want them to have that, sigh of relief, hey, we did it, we're fine. And I think actually speaking with Abdul Carter for a long time, his maturity is off the charts now compared to where he was coming into the program or things like that. But he said that just shows us exactly why you can't take a half off, why you can't come out the gate slow. And he said it was kind of a nice wake-up call in that sense of we really do need to take every single snap seriously. And I don't know. I mean, you think about how good the defense was last year, and I felt like they could do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. And so not that you want them to struggle at any point, but wouldn't you rather struggle here and win than struggle down the stretch where you can't recover and where your offense, isn't performing the way it is? And I don't know, you don't have Tyler Warren putting up record numbers. I mean, this is the kind of game where if you're going to have some lumps, at least you did it at home, you did it early. And now to your point, Christian, you have a whole 2 weeks really to have some tough practices and some tough conversations. But I mean, if you're going to struggle, maybe not the worst time of year.
Yeah. I'll say this game reminded me, for you guys and listeners that watched USA basketball this past summer, that first game against South Sudan, prelim game, so it didn't matter too much, but the whole country was like, oh shoot, like why are we losing? Why are we about to lose? And it took a LeBron highlight legend moment to win the game. And he said it, he's like, hey, we needed that. We needed to get punched in the face to let you know, hey, everybody's serious, similar to what it sounds like Abdul was saying. And what I mentioned earlier in the pod is just like, hey, it means something to gut out a gutsy, gritty win. No matter who it's against, being down X amount of points and rallying together, I still think that bodes well to go a long way. Obviously, if you learn from your lessons, maybe that's just a positive Penn Stater player, leader, captain in me that's like, taking something positive from this. But as you say, hey, anytime you leave, you're not going to diminish any W. W's a W. So I think as long as you learn from that, and to your point, where you and Jason were talking about, this bye week is it's going to be totally different.
Well, listen, it's a footnote right now, right? Like, if you get through the season, you have a ton of success, no one's going to be sitting there saying, ooh, week 2, Bowling Green. But, like, I'm a Patriots fan, born and raised, and, I sat through the 18-1 season, and that one loss really stings when it's at the end, And so, obviously, they didn't lose to Bowling Green. We're not talking about, like, panic level 80 at this point. But I think about that a lot. Like, you would rather struggle early than not be tested at all, get to the end, and then find out maybe we don't have that camaraderie or that, that leadership that can step up in a tough moment. I do think, there's plenty to clean up, plenty of things to be concerned about, but it's so early, and I think we forgot about it because of West Virginia, but they do have 3 new coordinators. That was all of their first time, calling a game in Beaver Stadium, getting used to that environment. And so certainly I think, everyone's human in that, and there's a lot of excitement, and the crowd was pretty good for it raining all morning and everything like that. So I think that's all to be expected. And if they struggle again, then we can freak out.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of like I think you guys highlighted, like, everybody bleeds, right? And I just thought this team would have a different mentality this year, considering the level of expectation they had last year and how they really played in that first half. They shut the door with teams like this early. So I just thought, like, with the experience of the latter half of the year last year, the mentality they had in spring ball and training camp of kind of just working in the shadows, being, like, hey, like, we know we're vulnerable now. Like, we know how important this is. I just categorize this as a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
To be able to say, like, when you're Brandon and I were just talking about it with Miami, right? Like, they came off a very similar emotional win against a Florida team, and, like, you're talking about a program that has a ton of history and a ton of expectations that's been in a really dark place, which we haven't even been in terms of the adversity and what they've ultimately, the product they've put on the field for the past few years.
Yeah.
And then they come out and just throttle, I think it was like Florida A&M or somebody, but they shut the door quick, right?
Yeah.
And I think we had the personnel, even though Bowling Green was a really good opponent and they schemed us up well, I thought we still had the personnel to execute. And the defense just looked like, from jump, a little caught off guard. Like, they stuck that seam in there. We rotated down to cover 3. They stuck the seam in there, and they go down and score in like 4 plays.
Yeah.
And everyone was just like, and I caught that vibe just standing on the sidelines. Like, everyone was like, what just happened? Like, everyone, like, that's not supposed to happen like that. So I just thought it was a missed opportunity to really put a stamp on the maturity of this football team, because, like you said, Allie, a lot of these guys have been around for a while now. Everyone likes to say they're younger guys, but they've been around for a while now. I think they know the expectations of what it comes with being in a place like Penn State, and, just a missed opportunity. So for me, like, this bye week's going to be for real. And then I'm going to have the same messaging. Like, they have to do the same thing against Kent State. Like, they have to, not the same thing. They have to come in and shut the door early against Kent State for me to be comfortable. And like you said, red alert. I'm not even going to talk about that. But
no, you got 2 weeks. To stay zen. But I think that's just it. Like, this gets erased if they do what they're supposed to do against Kent State in some fashion, right? Like, people won't be talking about that first half as much if they come out put up 30 on Kent State, head into the locker room, and get all their second and third string guys in there. And so I think it's interesting the way the schedule shapes up. I think a lot of people are nervous about how long they're at home before they travel across the country to USC. So you really can't afford multiple games in this stretch where people are saying, like, what's going on with Penn State? You want to really put the narratives away. I think you're going to have a defense that's fired up, right? They were top 2 in the country and everything last year, and they certainly were not happy after that. I don't want to say Abdul or Jay Reed or any of those guys were like, heck yeah, we're cool. Like, after the game, they were nervous about it.
Yeah.
And I think they definitely were also, like, to your point, caught off guard in the sense where they didn't expect to perform that way. That wasn't the game plan to start out, sloppy and sluggish and all that. I mean, people weren't even in their seats and Bowling Green's on the board. And so I think certainly there's a concern there, but some of these growing pains, I think, you're just going to find how's Tom Allen adjusting. I mean, heck of a game for the quarterback, the transfer, out of Indiana against his old head coach. I think there's maybe some of that plays into it, at least from a motivation standpoint. So I like the idea that in a good performance against Kent State can kind of flip that narrative pretty quickly.
Let me ask you this, Allie, really quick, from a beat perspective now. How much do you think that the bye week may actually get annoying for Coach Franklin with the Bowling Green questions? Because you have now, like in a normal week, you got 4 or 5 days of it, and you're gonna be like, all right, cool. Like, we're able to go out and handle business now. Is from a flip side, I guess, playing devil's advocate here. This extra week, how is the Penn State beat gonna be in open press conferences and open practices regarding this game?
Yeah, I was actually struck by the post-game press conference. I didn't really feel like it was nearly the level of criticism that he faces in bigger games, after Michigan, after Ohio State, things like that. I thought, there was enough pushback, but not a ton. And to your point, he handled it well, and he knew where all the issues were. So I don't think anyone really had the time to digest fully what happened and dive into the stats as much when he's coming out 20 minutes later and we're throwing 10 questions at him and then moving on. They schedule the bye week a little differently. So normally we talk to Coach on Monday in a press conference, 45 minutes. Then we see him again after practice on a Wednesday. During a bye week, we only get him once, and it's on Tuesday. And so it'll be quick. It'll be about 10 minutes. We'll have watched practice before that, so usually people are trying to talk about that. Maybe, hey, we saw some bumps and bruises, talk about some of those guys. It's a lot of time for stuff like this, though, right? Everyone's got a couple episodes of podcasts and things like that to kind of fill, and so you're analyzing a lot more, I think, not just this week, but headed into that Kent State game. So I think there's a lot more time for people to talk. I think the program does a good job, and rightfully so, of giving Coach a little bit of space in that bye week, too, because we're 2 weeks in, so we're not talking about the exhaustion factor yet of a season, but I think for him, they've got a lot of things they need to clean up. I think this is also a huge week for them, usually hitting recruiting, getting out to some games on a Friday night because they don't have anywhere, to be. So I think you'll see more of a focus on 2025-26 from inside the program, and then they keep us away, which is smart for everyone's sake.
I'm going to ask you guys, I had not the pleasure, but not luckily, because I was going through some little family emergency. I didn't watch the game live, but my phone was blowing up, friends, family, what's going on. So as I went back and ran through it, I got the sense and saw what happened. I'm like, oh, shoot, okay, now I get the panic. You guys mentioned the anxiety and whatnot you were feeling being in the stadium. What's the confidence level overall right now? And Allie, you touched on the landscape of college football. A lot of teams struggle, Notre Dame losing. Where is your head at right now? Let's just stick with the Big Ten. As far as the Big Ten placement so far, how everyone's looked, how do you feel about Penn State right now?
You want to go first, Hack, or me?
I'm going to let you answer this one because beat is up.
It's for the beat.
All right. Listen, I think it's a much different Big Ten than it was last year, right? We have a lot of new faces on players, coaches, all of that kind of stuff. I think college football in general, there's a lot more parity right now, which I think is a result of the transfer portal, a result of NIL. You're finding teams. I mean, to be honest, Ole Miss has a good history, but I didn't think Ole Miss would be Ole Miss in the Peach Bowl, just based on how many guys they brought in, and you didn't know what they were from year to year because it's a totally new team. I think you're seeing that across the board. I still haven't really figured out the West Coast and how to compare them yet to the rest of the Big Ten. So I think Michigan's certainly taken a step back. I guess that was to be expected. I think Ohio State's Ohio State, but they played Akron. So what are we looking at? I think people could say the opposite about Penn State. They played Bowling Green. What are we looking at? So it's hard. To me, it's so early. But I do think across the board you're finding more parity, and I think you're going to find some of these smaller programs who catch lightning in a bottle, or they get a big Power 5 transfer to come down and play quarterback. They're going to step up to the occasion. I don't know. I'm terrible at these comparisons. That's more of a y'all watched film for your entire lives, so you'll know more about it than I do. But as far as the conversation goes, I think it's more open. And then I think the way that Penn State's schedule shakes out, you're not playing both Ohio State and Michigan. You got different teams in there, so I think it's hard to know exactly how to stack up until we really get into UCLA, USC, all of that kind of stretch.
Fair point.
I like it.
Fair point.
I like it. All right, Allie. Listen, I appreciate your time here. Make sure you guys check out Allie as well. Allie and I are doing the Nittany Insider. Allie, you want to throw the details on that? Anything else you got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. One, so thrilled to have you on that. I say to everyone we're borrowing Hack, but his insight's been great. We do a little segment kind of breaking down the X's and O's on a show called Nittany Nation Game Day. It airs across the state of Pennsylvania, in New York and D.C., but it's also posted online on abc27.com. But really the idea is, right, I can talk about the emotion and what we're hearing from the team, but X's and O's are not my thing, so we're going to ask the quarterback to break it down for you. Hence Hack. Yep. So I think it's been awesome so far. We did it last year with Michael Motti, who I know has done a bunch of stuff here with the Pocket and everything that state media is doing. So for me, it's been awesome to get to know all of y'all, understand the program a little bit better, not just what we're seeing on the field, but the emotion behind it and why you guys are still here giving back, 10, 15 years later, depending on how old we all are. I know I'm calling us out, but no, it's been awesome. And really, I think fans should understand how lucky they are that you guys do this every week, giving them some insight. So thanks for letting us borrow you.
Not a problem. We appreciate the time, Allie, and I'm sure we'll be talking at some point down the line here towards the end of the season when we start getting into those games that matter.
All right, clean it up against Kent State, guys.
Here we go. All right, y'all. Allie Berube, she's the best. She's a good one. As she said, we're getting to know each other through the Nittany Insider and doing that. And I got a ton of respect for how she covers the program. So wanted to make sure that you guys, the listeners of The Pocket, got a little bit of her insight. And we'll make sure we follow back up with her down the road. Now, B, let's dive into it. Yeah. We stayed real topical here. Let's dive into it defensively, man. Give me your takeaways on the defensive side of the ball. I know I have some thoughts, but what you got for me?
Yeah, you touched on it right there with Allie. And we spoke about it last week. What we wanted to see this week, the maturity level, not skipping a beat, still firing off on all cylinders. That's what we saw from West Virginia. And to Allie's point, it's been a while that we've felt this anxiety with the defensive side. And that, they dropped the ball on the maturity and what the expectations coming in this week, as we touched on. And once again, squeezing whatever juice I can out of this lemon. We got the dub. It's not a negative thing, but obviously letting up that many points so easily, so quickly is very unsettling. I think some things are curable. They were a good squad, good play caller, quarterback was pretty good. So you give them, X amount of plays, they're going to make those plays. I'm not saying, it's college football, they're going to make plays. But some of those things, when they go back and watch film, they're going to see bad discipline, bad eye discipline in man-to-man coverage. Certain things, just keeping contained, keeping outside arm free. Certain situations like that, spatial awareness, zone awareness on some of these third downs, a little too soft, too much cushion third down. And when I go back and watch, I'm like, come on, it's 3rd and 6. Why are we sitting at 8? This is too easy for this guy. Good player, the quarterback, but we're making him seem like he's a Heisman contender right now. So some of those things I think we can tighten up, which we did, obviously, that third quarter, second half, which, as unsettling as it is, we saw and they know what they can be and what they should be down in and down out. And I'm sure, as we said, this bye week is not going to be as light or as fun as maybe it would have been coming off an easy coast win. I think that's what Coach Allen Franklin, they're harping on. It's just the finer details of defense. I mean, it's a simple game. You line if it's man-to-man coverage like we want, or at least I want, we have the talent. And you're going to get beat, but we can't get beat based off what we're doing wrong. Just once again, eye discipline and things of that nature we can tighten up on.
I think it was just a tale of two halves. 280-something yards in the first half. I think, like you said, we only gave up like 80-something in the second half.
Yeah.
But to your point, like all the things you mentioned, eye discipline, even just alignment, knowing where the sticks are, like just the little things. It was just a lack of attention to detail. I felt like they just thought that they were going to be able to roll out there and just out-athlete them, right? And then subsequently, I think the complementary side of it with the secondary and the defensive line, right? Like I think Bowling Green came out with a great game plan where they were trying to get the ball out quick because they were aware of our front. But subsequently, our front also didn't really. I mean, we're still 2 weeks in. We don't have a sack, bro.
Yeah.
Like a real sack. So I think that there's that weird kind of lack of complement, from the defensive line and the secondary, and in those gotta-have-it situations where I think we got gashed in the first half, those third manageables, they were able to beat our man coverage conceptually and quickly, which didn't allow our defensive line to really get into it. And then when our defensive line had opportunities to potentially force the rush and cause, a hurried throw or a pressure or a sack, they didn't really capitalize on that. And then, the second half, we can get to that here in a second, but the second half, we obviously turned the ball over a couple times or forced a couple turnovers a couple times, and that I think ultimately led to us being able to seal the deal. But again, the more and more I think about it, it's all super correctable. It just wasn't like we were just getting flat out torched. It was just, we just weren't finishing. It was 2 or 3 good plays, and then, we let them loose, and then all of a sudden they have some momentum and they string 2 or 3 good plays together, and then it just was it just didn't seem like the ball was ever rolling our way.
Yeah, the pass rush is definitely something we're gonna have to get going, and that's something they harp about it with the offensive line losing our 3 guys to the NFL. Losing the 2 guys we just lost, one in Chop and Adisa Isaac, first round, 3rd, 4th round talent, and then having a new Abdul Carter step in. I mean, obviously he's preseason All-American, all the accolades he has. Switched into a new position, last season, and he has all the talent to do so. And we're seeing him. He's getting there, best believe. But I guess maybe to assume the immediate, 3-sack performance, might have been a little gung-ho. Losing some guys to injuries, too. But that's to your point. We're definitely going to have to get that tied in together to give our DBs a chance, because as I believe they can't lock up, you can't do that all day. And a good quarterback, that's what a good quarterback is going to look like. And maybe the kid we just played may be better than some Big Ten opponents, but, a good quarterback is going to make those same throws, and we can't make it easy on him for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and he made some tough ones, but I guess without further ado, B, let's jump into our Ziebart Defensive Play of the Week. As we mentioned at the beginning, Ziebart's a great sponsor of the podcast. They offer premium automotive appearance and protection services to extend the life of your vehicle. Clean, disinfect, enhance, and defend with the highest quality products and services, exceptional workmanship, and knowledgeable staff. A big thanks to our friends at Ziebart for supporting the show. And make sure you guys tune in each week for the Ziebart Defensive Play of the Week. Ziebart, your vehicle's best defense. And B, without a doubt, you jumped right into it. This has to go to our guy Tony Rojas with that pick. I thought that was a really impressive play.
Mr. Rojas.
Yeah, let's pull it up here and get into it.
Yeah, and this kid is coming alive. And in front of our eyes. I don't know if you guys are really watching. I had some snaps last year, making a ton of plays with his opportunities. But as a starter, I was watching the first game, a little gassed, a little bit, getting those first snaps. But we're watching this kid come alive to be, you know, an All-American, I believe.
B, talk us through it here, man. I'm going to let you rock. This is you.
I see a Tampa 2 type coverage. Obviously, it's hard without the end zone, all 22, but you see Rojas right there in the middle. He's got 2 middle runners. He comes off the first one. I assume the safety's there to play it, which is smart, and he gets his eyes on this second dig or crossing route, over route, and then just big body, able to run with a tinier slot guy. And not alone just bat the ball down, you know, out physical. This kid got his hands on the rock and picked it in a monumental moment. And that's what I love the most. You know, every time I get up there, get a chance to talk to the LBs in a year, I'm like, hey, guys, we are the guys that make the plays when we need them. You know, you got to have that mindset, because it'll change the game just like that. You know, the juice was flowing. As we said, that second half kind of, you know, not shutout, but you know, tale of two halves, as you said, is that mindset of like, hey, we're going to keep strapping up. We can strap up. We know we can. We let up some plays, a lot of plays in the first half, but we have a chance to tighten up. That's a beautiful thing about football. And Mr. Rojas, man, a young gun, doing it. And that's how you step into a leadership role, man. So Ziebart, play of the week, monumental interception. I think that's his second interception of his career. You know, he's going to keep racking up plays, man. I'm excited to watch him.
I'll tell you what, man, just quick from my perspective, what really impresses me is his ability to move in space. When you're looking for a linebacker, prototypical size, prototypical physicality, little things fundamentally he needs to brush up. But the way that kid can move in space, he had a couple really good coverage plays against West Virginia last week that you and I mentioned. I mean, running with tight ends and running backs and even some receivers.
This week, too.
Yeah, this week as well. But I'm telling you right now, man, like that play, his ability to close on that ball, it was DB-ish. It was DB-esque.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see from that play. He might have speed turned off that first vertical threat.
He did. I mean, he flipped and ran, bro, and then closed the gap. Because I was just behind it on the sidelines, and I watched it play out, and I was standing right next to Marty, and I was like, he looked at me, and I was like, oh, shit. Like, he just moves different, man, and I'm really excited for him to mature. So, as you said, Ziebart Defensive Player of the Week, man. Tony, congrats. Keep it up, young fella. We're proud of you. Closing the book on that, they got the bye week. I know Tom Allen's going to be in their ass. Got a ton of confidence in them being able to clean these things up. I don't think they're going to take another opportunity like this for granted. Now I want to flip this over to the offensive side of the ball, and I'll run here from the top, and I want to get your thoughts. But offensively, I'm going to be completely honest. I loved it. Yeah. I thought early we shot ourselves in the foot, 2 or 3 drives with some drops and just some drive killers, but had explosives in the run game, ran the hell out of the football, 33 carries for almost 200 yards.
Both guys
played really well too, and then Tyler Warren being able to be really the go-to. I mean, they found the mismatch. They schemed it up too, a lot of different ways. You know, we used to call it like Mike Gesicki got his first touchdown on it, boot right Bama, where you have 2 verticals off. He kind of releases out in the flat and then runs a wheel up the sideline. They ran that 2 or 3 times out of 2 or 3 different presentations and got him the football. They also got him the football quick when they needed first down drive starters, just throwing him a smoke screen, just a big body who can move in space. And he took advantage of it and set the tight end all-time single game yardage record at like 150 something, man. So Tyler Warren played really well, but I was not disappointed. And the one thing that I think we need to look at as fans as to why this game was so close with the way that I feel the offense played is the time of possession battle. We lost that.
Yeah.
Bowling Green possessed the football for 32 minutes, 33 minutes. We had it for 27. So we didn't have a ton of opportunities to go down and score. And then we had the OPI on one.
We were
and then
playing fast too, though.
Yeah.
We were playing no huddle.
And that's the thing too. I loved our tempo. Like we mixed it in. We threw the touchdown to Amari Evans at a tempo. So I loved all these elements, and like really offensively, like I'm not concerned. They're doing good things. We had explosives. We're right where we need to be offensively, and I think it's just about resetting, getting back to complementary football, and then kind of like Allie said, like not worrying about the defense anymore, because that is something that we never really had to worry about for quite some time. But hey, I got confidence in them. V, what'd you think offensively?
Yeah, I'm right with you, man. I think it's just such an odd game because as Penn Staters, as fans, we haven't been in a situation like this where the offense, like you said, no worries. Like, hey, they scored, we're gonna come right back. Boom, boom. Obviously kept us in it. Still things to clean up, as you said, but it's week 2. That's gonna be the case as long as we put our head down and get those done. But very impressed once again with Drew. I mean, as I went back and watched it, I almost wanted to. I wish I was watching it live. I probably would have tweeted or texted you. I think it was that Omari Evans touchdown. That's the point where your QB leader comes to the sideline, or maybe it was halftime, and it's like, hey, let's get our shit together. Yeah. I got us over here. Let's ball up. Let's tighten up. And I would have to believe something like that happened at halftime. Whether it was Coach Franklin, maybe it was Coach Allen. I don't know. Somebody got in somebody's ass as far as hyping him up. Naeem Wortman moment from the Big Ten chip of just kind of spazzing. Where you talk to your players, how parents don't think you should be talked to nowadays. There was some spit going on, some F-bombs and things of that nature. Something went down at halftime to get things right. But Drew was, as we kind of wanted to see, that maturity of hey, we're right back at it. We're not going to bat an eye. As you said, some drops, drive killers, got to nip those in the bud if we want to be elite. Because right now, this kid this is who we wanted to see last year. Maybe it was unfair to, expect that first year starting, but we're seeing it right now. And I don't want to take that for granted because the defense let up a game. I know that's where the attention is, but let's also give flowers to, hey, this kid's doing it. This OC's doing it. This team offensive unit's doing it. Tyler Warren, this is kind of what we wanted from last year too, to be that blanket. We're seeing it right now.
Yeah, we are. And I'll continue to hammer points home. Even, again, Omari got called for the offensive PI on that post, but great placement.
Yeah.
Gave him a chance, right? Now Omari's going to start getting a feel for now body position, extending that arm and just kind of giving him a little chicken wing and then getting here, you know what I mean? And then I thought he gave Trey Wallace a chance, too, on a post headed down away from the student section that I thought should have been caught. But those are just two things that I think the average fan looks at and it's like, hey, missed opportunities, whatever. But for me, on the positive side, comparing Drew's total body of work, those are two examples of him giving guys chances. And then subsequently, even the interception he threw, right? He underthrew it a little bit, and they were kind of sitting in like a quarters, kind of the corner was just sitting in no man's land. They ran a hitch right outside, and then kind of like a spray fade, and he just kind of fell off the hitch and went up and made the play. He underthrew it a little bit. Had he thrown it a little bit further, I think we would have had a chance to complete the ball. But even that, man, for him, got it up out the way, cool, whatever. But secondarily as well, he was still giving guys chances, and you have to live with the fact that he's not going to be dead nuts perfect. And for me, him being aggressive there, it was a little bit out of character. I mean, that was first down too. He was very aggressive with that, and it wasn't Washington. So those are things that I think are going to bode well. And then now him being a much more mature player, that he just keeps in his Rolodex, right? That was first down. I really didn't need to force that. I could have just kicked a hitch, second, whatever, and then just try to figure things out. But I just a lot of maturity for him. And again, you said it right. I want to make sure that we give this offense flowers because they buckled down, batten down the hatches, and for the first time in a long time, the offense had the defense's back.
Yeah, we leaned on them.
And it was really refreshing to see. So, with that being said, B, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but the bye week coming up, Kent State, going to be a work week. Let's elaborate a little bit on that. I want to get your perspective, and then secondarily, what are you expecting? What are you expecting for Kent State and the performance and how these boys are going to come out the tunnel?
Yeah, I mean, we've been harping on it. I think it comes back to fundamentals. I'd say take it back to day one of camp. You have your playbook in now, so it's not rudimentary things, but the fundamentals of what we're going to do every Saturday. Whether it's man coverage, zone drops, the type of blitzing, the awareness of the sticks and things of that nature. That's where we'll make the most strides because it's not necessarily about who we're going up against. You know, we talked about maybe letting off the gas a little bit, seeing a Bowling Green on the schedule.
B, let me jump in there.
Yeah.
Let me jump in there. Talk to me about that, though, from a player's perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you and I both know this. The best teams you've ever been on, the best teams I've ever been on have been player-led. So talk about it from, like, a player's perspective, right? Yeah. Like, the coaches have been coaching the same shit since they got there. Just being completely transparent. They just went out and executed it with a much more higher level of attention to detail and intensity against West Virginia than they did against Bowling Green. Yeah. So, like, talk a little bit more about from that leadership perspective, like you as the linebacker here, right? If you were Tony Rojas, if you could just swap mentals for a week, like what's your approach to everybody else, right? Like every snap and every period, like what's your approach?
Yeah, I think I run it back to, hey, guys, it's about us. You know, people are going to talk about what they did, how many points they scored, but it's like, hey, obviously, if I'm in the locker room, I know how to talk to my guys, talk to my safety, talk to my D-line, talk to my LBs. Like, guys, we effed up on these plays. Our eyes are bad. Look, the eye in the sky don't lie. We got post safety. You got inside help. Your outside leverage. You get your eyes right, that play doesn't happen. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, it's 3rd and 6. We're too soft here. Let's tighten up. We all got to lock in on that. It's not. That's what I always say about leadership for me. Yeah. Is learning how to talk to your personnel. You know, I may have to talk to Hack differently than how I talk to Jason Kabinda, you know? And I think the leadership on that squad, I'd assume, is the older guys. I'm talking defense right now. The Reeds, the Winstons, you know, the Kobe Kings is like, yo, similar to what Allie said, maybe she got the feel for, is like, yo, you know, we got the dub, but nah, that shit can't happen to us. You know what I'm saying? Like, Bowling Green can't come up here and put up those numbers. So we have to tighten up. You know, let's get back. If you want to strap up the way we know how to strap up, let's be locked in on the hips. No matter the play call, let's be locked in on what we got to do. And I think they have the chance. They do have the chance to do that. I believe the leadership is there. We just got to see it, you know, to believe it. As you said, this next game 2 weeks from now is carbon copy, you know. Penn State, no one's a slouch these days. If you let them, you know, come out and slap you in the mouth, they'll do just that. So I'm looking for that leadership in this bye week, because the coaches are going to harp and yell as much as they want, but they're not out there lining up trying to go one-on-one on 3rd and 6.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with you, man. And that's the thing. Like, it's so hard now not being in the locker room, but like now trying to articulate it in a manner that's digestible to fans. But like, it may sound crazy as shit, but like, I'm going to be talking about this Penn State or this Kent State game the same way I was talking about this Bowling Green game. Because at the end of the day, when you peel it back, like, they rolled the ball out there. Kent State came out and executed. We didn't, to the level that we needed to dominate in the fashion that we were capable of doing due to our personnel. So for me, like you said, no team's a slouch. Yeah, if you let them into it, like, cool. Yeah. So for me, it's just about, like, again, I'm expecting them. This is an opportunity to right wrongs, and a similar opportunity that they blew this week with Penn State, of coming in there, shutting the door early, cutting the throat, and then going into all the shit that I talked about that I would have loved to have seen, which is, you know, building confidence in your 2 and 3 deep and getting them game reps in Beaver Stadium, so that they can ultimately start making plays for you when you are playing Ohio State and KJ Winston gets a stinger and goes down for a series or two, or, you know, Amari Evans goes down for a series or two, or whomever goes down, and you need somebody to fill in and be able to play at that level. The expectation does not drop off at all once you start going into those things, and that's what really these games are for. You pay these guys to come up there and take a belt to the ass, and you know, we kind of got, like I said, we got a pillow fight. So, you know, that's the thing, man. And I think you brought up some great points. Like, just this practice week for me it's going to be, and you know, like, you and I were captains together, like, you know, bro, like, when it turned in some of these situations, slightly different time, but like, you and I set the tone. Yeah. You know, it was almost one of those things where it was like,
it's one versus one.
When we got it, like, we set the tone. We were talking shit. we were getting everybody else to be like, this actually matters. Like all these little things, they matter because I'm going to take advantage of it. If you're taking 2 or 3 plays off in practice, guess who's going to take advantage of it? Me. And then guess who's going to let you know about it? Me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, and then vice versa. You know what I mean? There was plenty of times where I was cruising and you got in my ass. So it's like,
I think that can definitely happen. I see that happening for sure in the DB room after obviously not their best performance. And I'm not sure if this was because of that or just a natural rotation. I saw some fresh faces out there. Coach Smitty threw some guys out there in that second half that I didn't necessarily see playing as much in the first quarter or first half. And once again, I'm not sure what that reasoning was. But to your point you just made, like, hey, if you're not going to strap up, I got a guy right here that's eager to get out there, has been shown and proven in practice. I'm going to give him a shot. And I look forward to seeing that. So this bye week, for once again, like, hey, if this is the type of defense we want to be, who are the guys I can trust to go out there and, once again, execute the plan? That's all it is. It's about us executing, and then the plays will be there and be made.
And then subsequently, you bring up a good thing, and I'm going to make this point be known, and guys tap into this. The receiver room, I think, is in a completely different mindset than they were even coming in from training camp, right? Because I think the receiver room's coming off of what they would categorize as a couple good performances. So the receivers, their confidence level and their intensity might be turned up a little bit more, and that's only going to bode well, iron sharpens iron type of conversation with these DBs, especially with probably the opportunity of getting some good-on-good work this week.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a unique element that, again, would fly by the wayside if we weren't talking about it. But I think that's a really unique element to really hone in on as a fan that could be a differentiator in terms of the intensity and attention to detail heading into Kent State. So, as always, B, love rapping about this shit with you, man. This gets me fired up, and we appreciate it. This is obviously the bye week edition. We'll be talking a little bit more about Kent State preview the following week. Probably a little bit more focused on what happened in the college football landscape, as there are games that will be played this weekend. But make sure you guys tap in with us each week. We're stoked about it. I'll follow us on all our socials at State Media PSU, on X, on Instagram. We're going to be
mailbag back this week too. We're going to need that.
Yeah, let's get that mailbag back. That's a good point. Yeah. Drop that, B.
We'll drop it. I'll drop it.
So we'll get the mailbag back, get some engagement, and but make sure you guys are following along. We really appreciate all the support. We appreciate all our sponsors coming in, stepping up big, allowing us to do this and get this knowledge over to you guys. Make sure you guys reciprocate that love and go check all these guys out. They're doing some really good things, as I said, in the NIL space with Hidden Still, Family Clothesline even with some of their jersey deals. And then Ziebart stepping up for us. Need to get the whip clean. Make sure you got a call. So that's it. We appreciate it. It's another episode of The Pocket. Bye week. Looking forward to Kent State. Flush that Bowling Green shit down the toilet.
Yeah. 2-0, baby. Let's go.
2-0.